spade. But if you listen to this clip from Chris Matthews, and I can't even play the clip. Let me tell you how draconian these bastards are. I can play a clip from Fox News and share a 30-second clip and we can discuss it because of fair use, copyright fair use. If I play a clip from MSNBC or any subsidiary of NBC, I will have a copyright infringement placed on me before the end of the show. So I can't even play this clip from Chris Matthews, but I'll describe it very well. Chris Matthews has, and call it, just hang on, I'll be with you in 1 second. Chris Matthews did an interview with Hillary Clinton today. First of all, that nobody is calling out his constant interruptions, his condescending tone, his misogynistic mannerisms in which he carried himself and the way he treated Hillary Clinton. No one's going to call that out because the interview was beneficial for Hillary Clinton. I think that's graduate level propaganda that they did right there. But anyway, I digress. In this interview with Hillary Clinton, he sets the framework almost exactly like Sean Hannity would set the framework. The framework was, here you have a socialist who is threatening a revolution, and he shouts revolution at his rally with all of these young people, and all of the young people just start applauding. And he's described it, Chris Matthews describes this as something that should be terrifying, because we have this self-avowed socialist, and nobody wants to be called a socialist, according to an older episode of Hardball. Nobody wants to be called a socialist. Chris Matthews definitely doesn't want to be called a socialist, but Bernie Sanders calls himself a socialist. And now he's rallied all these young people to be behind him. And then he asked Hillary Clinton this question. He said, do you think Bernie Sanders will ever learn? And he stopped mid-tracks. He said, well, no, Bernie Sanders will never learn. He said, do you think we can teach these young people that that's not how America works? We're going to have an election. You're going to get inaugurated. You're going to have a Congress, and the show is going to keep going on. Essentially saying that what you have in America is the best that you're ever going to get in America. And Hillary Clinton didn't disappoint. She came right along and insisted on the reason she's best for America is because she is willing to only go for the things that she feels will easily get done, which is, by the way, a very bad assumption when you consider the fact that nobody is hated more in the United States in the GOP Congress than Madam Benghazi. I happen to think the Benghazi chase is a goose chase, is a witch hunt. However, why would we believe that she would be able to get more things done with this GOP Congress or any derivation or any subsequent Congress when they hate her more or as much as they hate Barack Obama? So they want you to believe that lie. But anyway, the point is this. I digress. The point is this. Chris Matthews and Hillary Clinton and people like them, they represent the establishment. They have benefited from the establishment. They don't see anything wrong with the way Washington, D.C. works. They don't see anything wrong with trickle-down economics. And in this interview, Hillary Clinton derides trickle-down economics as something that is bad, but will not admit to the fact that even with the Bush tax cuts, or our inability to completely roll back those tax cuts completely, as well as roll back some of the 1981 Ross Kemp tax cuts that created this paradigm in the first place, we are still living in a Ronald Reagan trickle-down economic system. So she throws up trickle-down economics as something to scare Democrats, when in actuality, she is Reaganomics light. She is Reaganomics like, not 2.0. She's like the downgraded version of Reaganomics. And they are okay with this because they benefit from this. They are direct beneficiaries from the way things are. Somebody on the show last night discussed, I think it might have been a Noah, which, by the way, thanks everybody for joining me last night. Somebody discussed last night that there are people who look at the system and say, we are the beneficiaries of the system. So why would we want somebody like Bernie Sanders, who's coming along, who wants to revolutionize the system? Well, the fact of the matter is, most of us are not beneficiaries of the system. The majority of Americans are on the receiving end of this system. Case in point, I was talking with someone I consider a friend, so I will leave them nameless. And I was in DC, and I was, well, hell, I'll tell you guys, I was applying for jobs to work for a congressman, multiple congressmen. Woman, I was like, whatever, you know, I'm good, I'm talented. Let me just go to DC and get me a job. And so I had a lunch. This was like, hell, this was at least 70 years ago. And I had a lunch with a guy who I consider a mentor. In some regards, I consider him a mentor, and he was on the staff for a well-known congressman. And we sat down and had lunch, and I was like, hey, you know, put your boy on. I'm trying to get in. I want to get in, and I want to work for a congressman. I want to work for a senator because I like American politics, and I'm particularly good. I have a particular set of skills, right? And we had this great lunch, and we talked about it. And at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, he said, listen, Ben, let me tell you something. I'm not lying to you guys. This is 100% truth. I'm not even mentioning names to keep the person safe, right? He said, there are a lot of people. He's a Democrat. The congressman was a Democrat. He said, there are a lot of people who are yelling at us to change the system. He said, there's a lot of people who are yelling at us to get money out of politics. And he told me, he said, we're not going to do that. He said, I'm not going to advocate for that. You know why? I like the system exactly the way it is. And I absorbed it all. He said, the way it works great for us. And I'm like, Now I wasn't as I had more F's to give back then because I was trying to get a job. I don't have any F's to give these days because I don't need anybody else's job, build my own thing. But it really spoke volumes that a representative that I highly respect, that I've known for years, and somebody who worked for him that I've known for years and I respect even more than the senator, would really just be candid and admit that the system as it is works just fine, even for Democrats. At that point, after that conversation, it would be a great story if I said I never pursued a position there, but I kept trying to get a job there. And the only reason I'm not working there is because I guess I wasn't good enough for them. So, yeah. But years later, when I sat down and thought about that thing, I'm like, we are fighting. We are fighting not just against conservatives. We're not just fighting against Republicans. We're fighting against Democrats who are just as much beneficiaries of this rotten system as any Republican would ever be. And we see that with Hillary Clinton. We see that with Chris Matthews. They are direct beneficiaries. They have become wealthy on this system while the rest of us are being broken by the system. And once you realize that, we are fighting just as hard against some Democrats as we are some Republicans to fix a broken system, you no longer care about this imaginary loyalty that they want you to have to the Democratic Party. Let me give you one more anecdote. Just because you vote Democrat all your life does not mean they have any loyalty to you and you should have any loyalty to them. And this is real. Listen, I've been in a lot of places and I've always been the outsider wherever I went. And maybe that was a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing that I was never the insider. I was always the person sitting out, having to look in at everyone else's connections. And so as I begin to matriculate, as they would say, through the political system in a certain state, I've been in a lot of states, so don't try to figure out which one. In a certain state, I realized that they are commanding and demanding a loyalty from me that they have not reciprocated. And they simply want me to fall in line because I have historically voted Democrat. And it doesn't matter what this candidate actually represents or really is going to do. All I need to know is that they are Democrat and I need to be loyal to them. Well, when your policies are not loyal to me, I don't give a rat's ass that you are a Democrat. Your policies are not loyal to me. Therefore, I cannot be loyal to you. And so this idea that we must simply acquiesce and fall in line and be good Democrats is exactly a part of the problem when our Democrats are benefiting from this broken system the same way they complain about Republicans benefiting from the system. I'm feeling a little bit better. Maybe I can go the distance. Caller, you're live on the air. 510.